Hello class, this is Pei Zhang. This is our third presentation for this course. We will be dealing with developing text comprehension strategies in this presentation. In medical translation, text comprehension is often a non-linear, complex process. Only when we're very familiar with the topic and the genre of the text can we read it and produce a translation straight away, sentence by sentence. Otherwise, in order to understand the source text properly, we need to work through it in a rather circular way, integrating macro and micro elements. In this presentation, we present a three-step methodology for understanding the source text that we can use. First, you start off with getting the gist of the source text. Next, concentrating on individual items. And lastly, using fix-up strategies. Getting the gist of the text. Understanding the main ideas of the source text will enable us to have a comprehensive framework in which to process microelements. However, when trying to get the gist of the text, we may need to understand an individual item, term, expression, or sentence. Thus, the following strategies can be combined with those presented in the subsection headed Concentrating on Individual Items. Using different reading speeds. As professional translators and readers, we read a variety of documents: source texts, parallel text, dictionaries, books, encyclopedias, web pages, target texts, and for a variety of purposes: understanding, finding information, revising, and so forth. Therefore, we need to be aware of different types of reading, such as scanning, skimming, light reading, word-by-word reading, study reading, and use them as required. When processing the source text, reading speed should not be uniform. Not all the information contained in the source text is equally relevant. Some items of information are central to the topic of the text, whereas others may be of marginal interest or of lesser importance. Similarly, you may be familiar with some items of information, whereas others may be absolutely new to you. The latter will need to be read more attentively than the former. In other words, allocate more time to what is vital and or unfamiliar and skip over what is peripheral or already known to you. Outlining and summarizing. Outlining and summarizing can be useful tools to reinforce understanding of the source text. An outline is a sketch giving the prominent features of the source text. It can consist of a linear set of words, expressions, or sentences, often loosely linked by lines and arrows, which don't necessarily form a cohesive text. A summary is a cohesive text, resulting from the intentional reduction of the content of text from which it is derived. In summaries, the most relevant information is kept, and the less relevant information is left out. Thus, one of the key tasks when writing summaries is to identify the main concepts and link them properly with other relevant concepts in the new text. A summary is normally written in the target language and does not necessarily follow the same structure and sequence as that of the original. We can summarize texts in various degrees of quantity and detail. When summarizing, we should avoid repeating sentences taken literally from the source text. Summarizing often involves paraphrasing and reconnecting information. Text mapping. When processing highly complex contents, text mapping can be an efficient way of understanding the main concepts and the semantic relationships between them. A text map is a diagram or a symbolic representation of our response to the source text. Its purpose is to give us a nonlinear, hierarchical overview of the content of the source text. To make a text map, follow these steps. First, read the text and underline the main concepts of the topic presented in it. Second, decide which of them are central and which are peripheral, and list them in order of relevance. Third, write the key concept in the center of the page. Fourth, following the order of relevance, write the rest of the concepts around the central one. Number 5, use lines, arrows, and other symbols to represent the main relationships among them, such as cause-effect, time, and space. Number 6, add any details that can help you integrate as much information as possible into the text map. Number 7, read the text map aloud in your target language, connecting all the elements in it and trying to make sense of the whole. Exploring metaphor. We use metaphors all the time. We need them both to conceptualize and understand reality and to communicate it to others in a more efficient way. Metaphors are useful devices for explaining and focusing on specific aspects of complex objects and processes, as can be seen in the following example. The cell is a factory of life, and the mitochondrion is seen as the energy plant. In order to prevent attack by external factors, the cell has quality control mechanisms. Tumor cells are human beings whose growth and reproduction are abnormal. Disease is war, and immune system fights against disease agents. Tumor cells invade and colonize different parts of the body. The genome is a text. Genetic information is transcribed and translated. Thus, metaphors can be thought of as translations from a source domain of literal everyday experience into a target domain, with the aim of enlarging and enhancing understanding of that target domain, which is of a more abstract nature. Thus, in the first example above, an object that we cannot see immediately, such as the cell, is translated into a concept such as factory, which we are familiar with in our daily experiences. Metaphors allow us to construct narrative frames from which we can anticipate and infer further elements that come into play. Concentrating on individual items. Greek and Latin etymology constitutes a very productive system, not only for forming medical terms in many languages, but also for understanding them. Studying and memorizing the most frequent Greek and Latin etymologies of medical roots, suffixes, and prefixes can be of great help since they are widely used in medical texts. For example, knowing that the prefix hypo means under, below, or deficient, and that dermis means skin. When you see the expression hypodermic injection in a text, you will have enough understanding of it as to integrate it in your mental representation of the text, and relate that expression to other semantic elements in the text. Likewise, knowing that the suffix ectomy means excision, regardless of the root it combines with, you will be able to relate it to a surgical procedure in which a part of the body is cut out, as in appendectomy. Etymological knowledge enables us to infer the key features of medical terms, if not to grasp their meaning fully straight away. So, making inferences and paraphrasing implicit meaning from the source text is very important. The source text is the tip of the iceberg. A great deal of information is out of sight and has to be inferred from the surface elements, the surrounding text, the context, and the background information in the mind of the reader. In complex texts, paraphrasing the implicit meaning can help the reader to understand the content.